I was taking a look at your materials. I'd like to start with the PPG, if you're good with that.
Sure.
Okay. So looking at, there were some people who chose their PLC SMART goals for their PPG, and you did not do that, that's totally great and fine. Let's review a little bit about why you chose to go in a different direction for your PPG.
Well, I chose that one because doing the messages home was something that I did relatively consistently last year, but I had kind of realized when I was trying to come up with what I wanted to do in, when was that, October?
Mm-hmm.
That I hadn't sent any of them out so far that year. So it's kind of falling into a rut of not doing it, which is why I wanted to make it my goal to make sure that I didn't stay in that rut and I would actually keep up with it, because I did get comments from parents last year that it was really helpful.
I think in taking a look at that 4C, the communicating with families too, looking at that rubric and creating your messages home, that's just a really easy way to keep that communication open.
Yeah.
I was taking a look at some of your notes home, and have you gotten any responses from parents this year, or any comments, anything that you want to tweak?
Yeah, at conferences, in-person conferences, I kind of asked a lot of the parents, are you getting the emails? Do you find them helpful? And most of the ones, well, no one said that they weren't helpful. So there were like a couple that said, no, I'm not getting them, or maybe they were going, I don't know, to their spam folder or something. But so I made sure to add them back in. But everyone that said they were getting them said they thought they were helpful, so it was good. And then a couple of parents, end up replying right to the email with questions about stuff like, when is this thing due, or has my kid actually been using their time and working on this, are they done with it? So that's been good, just sort of as a reminder for parents to check in and make sure that their kid is doing what they should be doing.
One of the comments that you wrote was that you like to add more images, maybe, and it only allows you to attach one image at a time. Have you explored that format that I use at all, that SMORE format?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, but that's one that I'd like to look into.
Okay.
Because I think, if I'm gonna continue doing the messaging next year, which I'm going to, I'm not gonna use the same thing.
Yeah.
So I wanna start, I think I wrote in there, I wanna start, researching and talking with other people, what do they use and why do you use it, and does it work pretty well? I know Caitlin does like a blog or a monthly newsletter kind of thing that has a bunch of images and stuff, so I don't know what she uses, but I was gonna ask her and then look into the thing that you were doing too, to try to figure out what the best one is, because this is fine, but it's not anything special really.
It's amazing the response that people have when there's color or images or something like that. And even when I send mine home, I send the link in the message, and so it is one more click for people. But I usually get at least 300 views on mine, which again isn't a huge percentage, and I know that there are families who don't have their emails hooked up, and there are things that I definitely need to improve too.
But that's nice that you can see how many people are viewing it, or how many people have clicked on it. That's good, because that's one thing you can't do with this one.
But did I show you what it looks like?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've seen it, from the other perspective, from what parents see, but I don't really remember what it looks like from actually like writing it and creating it and stuff.
Yeah, it's super easy, and then I can show you the demographics, like really what it looks like too, because it'll give you an idea of how many parents are accessing it. Doesn't give names, but it does give some analytics. So, like over here, I can see that I've had 301 people since last Friday, and I can see how much time they're spending on it.
Yeah.
So, like my kid's principal sends same format home, and I know when I click in it, like sometimes I'll just scroll right through, and it does take me less than 60 seconds, so this is not surprising to me.
Yeah.
But people who are a little bit more interested will spend some time and read it a little bit more, and depends on the length of your, on the information and all that stuff, but it gives you some good information too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it tells you when, like how long, how many days in between when it was sent versus when they actually read it.
And
that's kinda cool.
I did put the link on Facebook, and that goes out on, feeds right into our Twitter too. So it gives a little bit more information too about if they got it right from the link that I sent, or someplace else, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's free too. So, it might be something just to check out. How are you feeling about, are you happy that you chose this particular PPG this year?
I think so, because I think if I hadn't have done it, I was on the track to not do it as often as I should have been doing it.
Do you put a calendar reminder in, or how is it? Okay.
Yeah, so it'll remind me. Usually I don't even need the reminder, I'll start writing it before the little thing pops up, but it's there if I need it, so.
Are there any, do kids ever contribute? Or
No,
not
but
that I saw, but.
Yeah, no, but that would be a good idea. Have kids, that would be nice to hear from kids' perspective what they've been doing in class, instead of just me saying, here's what you should have been doing in class. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'm really happy that you've made this commitment, and that there are some artifacts to it, and I think every time you just go in and tweak it a little bit, it'll just get better and better. It'll become part of your practice, and going into next year, you might not have to have a PPG around it. It'll just be part of what you do. So it's great. Doesn't look like there's anything that you need to focus on or really tweak going into second semester. So, if there's anything, let me know.
Okay.
There is, on that SMORE account, there's an upgrade somewhere. I don't exactly know what it is, but if there are enough people who are interested in doing that, we can investigate that a little further too. So
the one you use isn't the upgrade though? No,
it's just what you get, and it works fine with me.
That seems like a lot. I would think in order to get all of the data and everything that they would make you pay for the upgrade, so that's good.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. All right, good. I'm comfortable moving into the SLO. Are you good with that?
Yep.
All right, so your SLO had to do with students synthesizing, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And are you sharing this SLO with any of the other English 9 teachers?
Jenny for sure. I can't remember if Ryan chose this one or not.
Okay.
But I have been working with Jenny.
Okay. So the statement reads, I will raise the percentage of students who scored proficient or higher in the skill of synthesis from 12.9 to at least 60% by May of 2016. And you're going to be using 3 summative assessments, the fall, winter, and spring. Tell me a little bit about those assessments, if those are, I can't exactly recall if those are district-wide assessments or school or yours.
It's one that Jenny and I made together. And it's pretty simple. It's just the synthesis rubric up at the top, and then having them make some kind of text-to-text connection between whatever our anchor text that we're reading in class and then to something that they're reading, choice reading.
Okay.
So it will change, like the anchor text changed from fall to winter, and they just have to make some kind of connection, give specific evidence to prove that that is a connection, explain their connection, and then, you know, an A on this rubric talks about justifying and creating a new idea based off of that connection.
Okay. So yeah, hitting all of those pieces of the synthesis.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing if you've done an analysis at all on the complexity of the text from the fall to the winter. So, right, they're not the same text that you're creating.
I would say it's gotten harder.
Okay.
Because the anchor text that we were using when they did the fall one was Randy Pausch, last lecture.
Okay.
Was the last lecture, which I would say is a much more simple text than what they did for this one, which was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a ton more factors that they have to take into consideration with To Kill a Mockingbird rather than just the last lecture, which is a much more modern, has more modern topics. The kids connect to it a lot better. They could even take, in that one, they could even take just one specific little chapter, which the chapters are really only, some of them are 2 pages long, and make a connection to the one chapter. And in this one, they kind of had to take all of part 1 of the book into consideration.
Okay. And in the last lecture, I actually never taught that book, and I've not read it either. Would that be considered more of a memoir or nonfiction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be kind of interesting to see maybe if some of the difference in data could be because the anchor text switched from nonfiction to fiction.
Okay.
I mean, if kids are more used to reading fiction than nonfiction or nonfiction versus fiction, that might be kind of interesting to do. Try to look into that a little bit.
The MAP assessments, there used to be a larger discrepancy between nonfiction and fiction and how students were showing their proficiency. It's getting much tighter though. And I think that has to do with a lot of the work that we're doing in the classrooms too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm kind of jumping topics here a little bit. Have you been able to get into MAP at all to see your classroom analysis?
I remember I looked at it and looked into it and talked with Jenny about it like right after the fact.
Okay.
But haven't looked into it since then really.
I just went to a different, we just did some learning around it. I don't even know, I'm losing track of time. Could have been beginning of this week, could have been last week, I don't know. And there's some really pretty graphs, like easy to read type graphs that I'd like to work with the English department on. I mean, it really gives a really quick snapshot.
Sure.
With some data like that regarding nonfiction, fiction,
and
stuff like that. So that
yeah,
would be interesting to take a look at.
That would be interesting to hear students' perspective on too, because even though the last lecture it's a memoir, it's nonfiction, it kind of reads a little bit like fiction.
That's what I thought.
Which is why Jenny and I had kind of talked about, should we use the last lecture, should we not? Because that was something we talked about at the beginning. Should we use a nonfiction and then a fiction? But we went with it because, you know, it's not like a science article or anything like that. It's a memoir, so it's written in that format. So,
what's the spring selection going to be?
Those are going to be literature circle books.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that are all
fiction.
centered around the same theme.
Or do you have any nonfiction in there?
In those ones, no.
Okay.
Well, actually one, Bomb.
Okay.
But it's the same sort of thing where it's written a lot more, it's written a lot more like fiction than nonfiction to a student who maybe doesn't know or might not understand that it is. Some students have read it and thought it was fiction.
Okay.
So that's kind of a cool one. I hope a lot of kids pick that one this